How's it going, guys? I'm Robert from Machado Visuals, and today we're doing our first ever lighting challenge at a small event at my gym. I've always been intrigued with doing some sort of lighting challenge, and it's always neat seeing how other people approach on-location lighting. Joining me in today's challenge is my buddy Nick, who also went through UNLV Film. We'll have access to pretty much everything I own, and anything is fair game. So I just want to give a quick, brief walkthrough of the event. Basically, you'll have 7 athletes starting over at the rowers over there, and then they'll progressively start doing movements just down the floor, and then basically they'll keep going, and then through the rig, and they'll actually be ending somewhere right around here through the boxes, and they'll basically end right up on the turf. So basically, we need to light all the way from the rowers all the way to here. So it's quite a big space to light for. Tons of different ways you can do it, and yeah, it'll be fun. So here's the rub. We'll each have 45 minutes to execute our own lighting setup for the event. We'll do a coin toss to determine who goes first, and whoever goes second has to do a different setup. That way, if we're both thinking of doing the same thing, we'll be forced to get creative and find another solution. After each setup, we'll record a short clip as a proof of concept, which will be used to judge. Judging for this challenge will be done by members of Camp Rhino, as well as Dimitri, who's doing behind the scenes. Whichever setup wins will be used in the actual event. So before we get into it, I want to give a really quick shout out to my supporters over on Patreon. Their support really goes a long way in making videos like this possible. Nick ended up losing the coin toss, but I was feeling generous, so I let him go first. His first order of business was setting up an 8x frame with half grid near the rowers to mimic a large window near the start, and to light the frame we used a 600D with the F10 Fresnel.
I can't wait for this to be over, and Rob goes, I would have never done that in my life.
We set up another 300D on the opposite side of the key to give a broad wash of hard light over the competition floor. This might be where the doubts started creeping in.
What if this doesn't work? Nah, it's great.
It's perfect.
It's exactly as I pictured it.
It's perfect. All according to plan. We set up another 6x alongside the 8x to extend the window look, and started attaching Astera tubes on the rig using magnets to light the back half of the floor and use them as practicals. Before you knew it, time was up and Nick had his setup. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's time. Time, hands off. Whoa. Careful now. All right, so what we'll do is we'll get a kind of a mock athlete, maybe going through a bunch of these movements and then off to the finish. And do you wanna opt for this? I mean, it only makes sense.
I don't want my lighting skills to cross over.
You don't want to interfere.
Yeah, I don't want to because we should have a constant.
Well,
we should have a constant through it.
Okay, so what's the constant?
You opting camera through the whole thing.
All right.
Listen, at the end of the day, it's a competition. I got to give myself the best chance at victory, and if I opt this, I can't guarantee it would look the best. Yeah. Nobody cares what the lighting looks like if it's out of focus. So, let's we'll get Rob involved.
Do my best here. Go ahead. See some of that light back there. Could even go over here.
Yeah.
Yep, going all the way through. Sweet, cutting.
Sweet.
Got it in the bag.
Yep, in the bag.
Print it. All right, I had my work cut out for me, so I hit the ground running and started by taking 2 8x rags and hanging them from the rafters, which was no easy feat considering the gym has 16-foot ceilings.
Are you f***ing kidding me?
and just what kind of not to do.
My thought process was that I wanted the least amount of stands on the floor since there would be spectators throughout the gym, and I wanted to keep their experience in mind. Basically, I thought of the floor as lava. By combining the two 8x rags, I was able to create a decently soft source for most of the athletes, and by hanging them from the ceiling, we were also able to avoid seeing them throughout most of the shot. We put a combo with a triple header on the opposite side of the room and set up two 400-watt Joe Licos to bounce into the rags. I originally wanted three 800-watt Joe Licos, but they were unavailable from the rental house, so I had to settle for a couple 400 watts. As the lights warmed up to temp, I noticed that one of the fixtures was significantly darker than the other, and I'm not sure if this was an issue with the lamp or if the lens inside was just insanely dirty, but it was probably 2 to 3 stops darker than the fixture next to it. This sort of threw a wrench in my plan, so I took a few 300Ds with Fresnels to supplement the Licos, which wasn't ideal because a lot of light ended up spilling all over the place, but it did help with getting levels I was happy with. I still needed to light towards the end of the event, and since I wanted the house lights off, I mounted a 600D with a spotlight to the rig and shot it into the white part of the back wall to give just a little bit of return towards the finish. I knew I didn't have a long enough header cable to leave the power supply on the ground, so I used the included clamp to mount it on a nearby pull-up bar. Add a little bit of cable management, and you'd never know it was there. Meanwhile, I had Nick repo the Asteras onto the top of the rig pointing down so that there would be a little bit of illumination as they ran through and to also help with levels towards the end of the event. Things were coming down to the wire and I needed to manage a lot of the ambient spill, which was just washing everything out. So we closed any open doors and I just had enough time to add an 8x neg to block out most of the spill coming from the entrance.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, hands off. That's a deduction right there.
That's the deduction. All right. It's a little off.
I'll give him that one.
All right. Woo. After that, we got our sample clip, and from there, it was up to the judges. All right. I'm rolling. Go ahead. Through. Do one more. Perfect. Yeah, good. All right.
Okay.
Sheesh.
Okay.
Let the odds be ever in your favor.
I think he opted that a little bit better for his take. I don't know what you guys think, but I think he threw a little something extra in there. But it's cool. It's cool,
It was really interesting hearing what the other members had to say because it was pretty similar to communicating with a client in that they won't necessarily know how to articulate cinematic language, so it's on you to help decipher that look. Nick's setup was overall brighter with a mix of hard light coming across the floor, while mine was a much lower key and really leaned into the contrast. A lot of people were saying that although Nick's setup was brighter, it was easier to see the subject in my setup because the overall contrast drew your eye to the subject. There was also significant flaring in Nick's setup, which some people found a little distracting. And here's what our very own Dr. Diopter had to say.
Definitely just that hard flare.
Yeah, like the glare is what gets me.
Very J.J. Abrams-y with that.
There was something there that I didn't know how to describe,
Yeah.
and you just described it absolutely perfectly.
Like I like the brightness, but there's that glare. And I do feel like the second one, he's more clear, and everything
Yeah.
else is dark.
It's much more deliberate in the
yeah.
second one.
Yeah.
So as a group consensus, where do we fall? It's one or the other. So yeah, raise hands for one. How many is that? 1, 2, 3. Everyone else?
Yeah, I think 2's winning.
All right. That's cool.
That's cool. I like it.
So there you have it. We came in clutch with a 1-game win streak, and that's the lighting setup we used for the actual event. Hopefully this video is helpful in some way. It's always important to remember that there's never really a right answer with things like this, and it's mainly dependent on the project's needs. And it's super interesting seeing how different people approach that fact. These obviously weren't ideal conditions for lighting a live event with 7 people, but hey, that's why it's called a challenge. Was it perfect? No, but you tend to get pretty scrappy when you only have 45 minutes to light. If you're interested, consider checking out my Patreon, where you can find the full 2-hour video and other exclusive content from my professional life. Shout out to Nick for participating and getting that heart rate up during that high intensity showdown, and big thanks to Dimitri for capturing some of the BTS. I'd love to know your thoughts on this challenge. What do you think worked or didn't work for either setup, and do you want to see more challenges? Let me know in the comments down below, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
You know what? It's a good thing that, or actually rather, I don't think it made a difference that I went first, because I would have never thought to do this. So it's not like I was gonna do this and then he did it. I'm like, oh no, my plan's ruined. Did you think he was gonna do this? No.